Google just released a commercial that's sparking massive debate, and here's the wildly unexpected angle. The company literally imagined the founding fathers of the United States using AI. We're talking Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, all the historical figures on your high school textbook covers, sitting around and gushing about how amazing artificial intelligence is. The ad frames AI as this inevitable, almost natural evolution of human progress, as if the founding fathers themselves would have been out here training large language models if they'd had the chance. Now, here's what's fascinating. This isn't a subtle message buried in some tech conference keynote. This is a primetime commercial, the kind millions of people see across YouTube, television, and social media. The response has been immediate and polarized. Some people think it's brilliant marketing that taps into America's nostalgia and optimism. Others see it as a tone-deaf, almost dystopian repackaging of AI adoption that uses historical figures to bypass people's legitimate concerns about the technology. What makes this so interesting is that Google's attempt to make AI feel historically inevitable has actually done the opposite for a lot of viewers. It's made them question whether the company understands what it's actually saying. And here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just about one ad. To understand why Google made this particular commercial, we need to step back and look at what the company's been facing lately. Google's had to deal with increasing competition in AI. OpenAI's ChatGPT grabbed massive attention, and now companies like Anthropic, DeepSeek, and a bunch of others are pushing into the space. Meanwhile, Google's own AI products, Gemini, their assistant tools, their search integration, haven't exactly captured public imagination the way ChatGPT did. There's a trust gap. A lot of people see Google's pivot toward AI as another data grab, another way for the company to monetize everything you do. So how do you fix that? You make AI feel American, feel patriotic, feel like it's part of our shared heritage and values. That's the strategy here. By putting the founding fathers in the ad, Google's trying to say, look, this is a natural continuation of innovation and progress. This isn't scary or foreign, it's deeply American. It's what our founders would have wanted us to do. It's clever marketing psychology, honestly. Nostalgia is powerful, and patriotism is powerful. When you combine them, you get people feeling like they should embrace AI because the founding fathers would have. It's a way of making AI adoption feel like a civic duty rather than a consumption choice. But here's what most coverage gets wrong about Google's approach. So what does the actual commercial show? The ad takes us back to a sort of 18th century setting, but with this interesting twist. The founding fathers have access to modern AI tools. You see Benjamin Franklin working with some kind of AI interface that's helping him draft his ideas. Thomas Jefferson's there, apparently amazed at how fast AI can generate documents or analysis. The tone is almost giddy. Like these historical giants are experiencing this revelation moment where they realize how much more efficient they could have been with artificial intelligence on their side. There's this implication that everything they accomplished could have been done even better, faster, more brilliantly if they just had access to these tools. The commercial plays into this fantasy where AI is purely a productivity multiplier, a tool that makes smart people smarter. It doesn't show any of the complications, no deepfakes, no misinformation, no algorithmic bias, no job displacement concerns. It's AI as pure progress, untainted by any of the messy real-world stuff we're actually dealing with. The soundtrack swells, the visuals are crisp and inspiring, and the underlying message is crystal clear. AI is good, AI is progress, AI is historically justified. What the commercial does really well is sidestep every legitimate concern people have about AI adoption. It doesn't engage with the actual debate. Instead it says, debate? What debate? This is just the next chapter of human achievement. And that's exactly why people are frustrated. Here's the pattern we are seeing across tech companies right now, and Google's commercial is just the most audacious version of it. Apple, Microsoft, Meta, they're all releasing ads and promotional materials that frame AI as inevitable and wonderful, period. No asterisks, no caveats. Microsoft's been painting Copilot as this magical productivity tool that'll transform your work life. Meta's been positioning AI as a friend and creative partner. These companies have realized something crucial. If they can make AI feel culturally positive before people really understand what it does, they've won half the battle. Google's Founding Fathers ad is extreme because it literally reaches into American mythology to make its point. It's not just saying AI is cool, it's saying AI is embedded in the very DNA of American progress and innovation. The Founding Fathers were revolutionaries, right? So AI is revolutionary too. Founding Fathers were visionaries, AI is visionary. It's a neat rhetorical move because now if you oppose AI adoption, you're implicitly opposing progress, innovation, and your country's founding values. That's powerful, maybe too powerful. Other companies haven't tried to go that mythological yet. But you're watching them test the waters with celebrity endorsements, with emotional storytelling, with testimonials from everyday people whose lives are supposedly improved by AI. They're all building toward the same goal, making AI adoption feel inevitable and anyone who questions it feel like a Luddite. This is where the real battle is happening. There's actually a really clear parallel here to how the tobacco industry marketed cigarettes in the 1950s. Sounds extreme, but hear me out. Back then, cigarette companies hired doctors and scientists to create ads that made smoking feel safe, healthy, sophisticated. They used trust figures and cherry-picked experts to make a potentially harmful product feel like the reasonable choice. The strategy was brilliant. Don't argue about the risks. Just flood the zone with positive messaging that makes the product feel inevitable and good. Now, I'm not saying AI is as harmful as cigarettes. That's not the point. The point is the advertising strategy. By putting the Founding Fathers in this commercial, Google's using historical authority and cultural trust figures the same way the tobacco industry used doctors and scientists. You see a Founding Father using AI. Your brain makes a shortcut. If it was good enough for Benjamin Franklin, it's good enough for me. It appeals to authority wrapped in patriotism. The difference is that cigarette companies were hiding a genuinely dangerous product. Google's AI tools aren't inherently dangerous, but they do raise real questions about privacy, consent, data usage, job displacement, and misinformation. The advertising strategy bypasses all of that by appealing to emotion and mythology rather than engaging with the actual concerns. Most advertising does this, honestly, it sells feeling, not features. What makes people genuinely angry about this commercial is that it reveals something uncomfortable about how corporate power actually works. Google's not trying to convince you through facts or arguments. It's trying to make AI adoption feel culturally inevitable by wrapping it in your nation's founding mythology. That's sophisticated, and it's kind of infuriating if you stop and think about it. Because it means a private company is basically saying, we're going to appropriate your national symbols and historical figures to sell you our technology, and we are betting you won't notice or care. The implications are genuinely significant. If corporations can successfully associate their products with patriotism and historical progress, what's to stop them? Tesla's positioning itself as the future of transportation, so it wraps itself in visions of American innovation. OpenAI frames itself as democratizing AI. Every company gets to tell the story about why their version of the future is inevitable and good. None of them want to have the hard conversation about trade-offs, risks, and genuine alternatives. There's also something a bit dystopian about the specific choice of the Founding Fathers. These were men obsessed with power, with checks and balances, with the dangers of concentrated authority. They'd probably be horrified by the idea of an unelected corporation having this much control over information and decision-making infrastructure. But that's not the version that makes it into the commercial. So what's Google's actual strategy here, beyond just making an ad? The company's essentially trying to establish what marketing folks call a cultural narrative. They want to make AI adoption feel less like a choice and more like destiny. If enough people internalize the message that AI is just the next natural step in human progress, something the founders would have embraced, then resistance starts to feel un-American, backwards, fearful. It's narrative control at scale. Google knows that most people don't engage deeply with technology policy. They don't read white papers about algorithmic bias or data privacy. But they do care about what feels true, what feels culturally significant, what feels patriotic. So the company's betting big that an emotional, mythologically resonant message will shape public opinion more effectively than technical arguments ever could. Here's how it works in practice. someone sees the Founding Fathers commercial. They don't think too hard about it, but it plants a seed. Then they see other positive AI messaging from other companies. Then they hear about AI being used in hospitals, schools, businesses. Each touchpoint reinforces the narrative that AI is good, inevitable, progress. By the time they're actually making decisions about AI integration in their lives or their work, they've already accepted the underlying premise. The Founding Fathers ad is just one piece of a much larger coordinated cultural campaign to make AI adoption the path of least resistance. And that's exactly what worries critics. Here's what this all means for you and what to watch for going forward. First, the short version. Google made an ad that uses American Founding Fathers to make AI feel inevitable and patriotic. People are upset because it's a sophisticated manipulation of cultural symbols to bypass legitimate concerns about corporate power and technology integration. But here's what matters more than this one commercial. This is a playbook. You're going to see more companies, more industries, trying to wrap their products in cultural meaning and inevitability. They'll use different symbols, different values, different appeals to emotion. And the more successful they are, the more our collective understanding of progress gets shaped by corporate interests rather than by genuine public debate. What to do? First, when you see advertising from tech companies, pause and notice what emotional buttons it's pushing. Are they arguing with facts or appealing to feelings? Second, seek out perspectives that question the narrative. Read critiques from people worried about AI, not just enthusiasts. Third, remember that inevitability is always constructed. Nothing is truly inevitable until we collectively accept it. The Founding Fathers didn't invent inevitability, they fought for choices and freedoms. That's worth remembering as companies try to convince us that their version of the future is the only one possible. Google's commercial is just the opening move in a much larger conversation about who gets to shape the story of technological progress. Stay skeptical, stay curious, and don't let mythology do the thinking for you. Follow for daily AI news.